Another minute or two.
Okay. All right, David.
Thank you.
If Nancy hasn't come in some reasonable time that everybody thinks we should start, I'm happy to, as vice chair, run it. Nancy, here she comes. Great. We were waiting for you, Nancy.
You were? Well, it's 1 minute after. And here I am. Okay, well. It'd be nice to have a few other commission members. We do not have a quorum yet.
Oh,
Kenny, hi.
hello, hello.
Yes, we do.
Can you see everybody?
Are you,
Bill,
are you counting Kenny?
Dave, Chuck, and me. That's 5.
I didn't see.
Out of the 8.
I don't see Chuck
Yeah, that's it.
and Bill. Okay.
There we go.
Okay, now I see him. Okay, all right, we'll get started then. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the April edition of the Solid Waste Commission. Prince George's County, that is. Let's be clear. So let's see, call to order, roll call. Let's see. I know that Mr. Cola said he would be a little bit late. Kenny, I know you've got some pressing things, so if you leave early, that's totally fine. We're still, Dave is not on the call yet.
I'm here.
Yeah, he's here. Oh, he's here, okay. For some reason, I don't seem to be seeing everybody. Where is Nyla?
She's out of town, apparently, until she wrote until who knows when.
She's out of town, okay. All right.
I mean, she made it sound like she was going on a worldwide safari or something. I don't know.
All right, well, maybe I better check in with her and see what that's all about. Okay, all right, great. So the only thing, and I think I sent something out a little while ago that was missing, was just a quick update on the budget. So we will add that to the agenda after 10-year solid waste plan, which we're going to actually move up to under the landfill.
Nancy, did you see Kevin's response?
No, I did not.
Kevin responded that would be brought up at another time.
Well, they can have their response. I'm gonna mention a few things, so it's
Okay.
Nancy, sorry, I can share some information about the Resource Recovery Park budget under when I present the updates for RRD.
okay, that's
Later.
fine. I have a few things to say about the budget, so we'll just add
Okay.
that as an item. Thanks, Chuck. Okay, so it looks like from what I can see, we have Mr. Jackson, I think is the presenter. Is that correct, Kevin?
Yes.
So he's going to talk to us about the new Maryland Department of Environment regulations on landfill methane. And I encourage everybody, this is a good time. I know there's been a lot of questions about this topic. So this is a good time to bring your questions and thoughts. So we welcome you, Mr. Jackson, tonight, and look forward to what you have to share with us.
Oh, good evening, and thanks for having me.
Good evening.
But Nancy, you saw that Kenny asked to go first if he could.
I did, and I said to
That's
him,
fine.
"It's fine. Barbara took care of it."
Okay,
good.
sorry. Didn't know if you saw it.
Okay, Mr. Jackson, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, all right, I'll go ahead and share my screen. If everyone can see.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, this evening presentation will be in the new Maryland landfill methane gas regulation. I won't go into all the fine details as to the regulations or the rule as it's called, but I will touch the main points as relates to the main points as relates to the Brown Station sanitary landfill.
Great.
So the new regulation, the rule as they call it, became effective as of June 12th of last year. MDE published the regulation last year. And the rule has been several years in the making, and it is modeled off several rules that notably one in California and Oregon. The rule also incorporates provisions of EPA's federal landfill regulations, several EPA regulations. This rulemaking has been several years in the making, as I said, in development, and is consistent with Maryland's GHG Reduction Act of 2009 and the recent Climate Solutions Act of 2022 that requires Maryland to become net zero of GHG emissions by 2045, with an interim goal of achieving 60% GHG reduction by 2031. So MDE estimates this rule will achieve a 25 to 50% reduction in GHG emissions from affected landfills. Notably, as applies to landfill, the rule applies to active and closed municipal landfills that have accepted waste after November 8, 1997, and that have a design capacity greater than or equal to 2,750,000 tons and 3,260,000 cubic yards. The active and closed municipal landfills that have accepted waste after December 31st, 1993, that have less than 750 tons or 3,260,000 cubic yards of waste, but greater than 450 tons of waste in place. The Brown Station landfill is within that threshold. Our recent tonnage report extract is shown below, and our total capacity at Brown Station Road is 16,505,000 cubic yards. And in tonnage, our total tonnage capacity is 11,231,000 plus. Just to give you a picture of the size landfill that this rule covers. Actually, landfills that are a quarter of the size of Brown Station Road would have been covered under this new rule. The requirements. So by September 10th of last year, applicable landfill would have prepared a waste in place report and calculated their methane generation rate and submitted to MDE. The Brown Station Road landfill has already completed both. Main requirements of this new rule is municipal landfill that generate municipal landfill with greater than 450 tons of waste in place, a calculated methane generation rate greater than 8,548 tons are required to install and operate a gas collection system. That's a main component of this new rule. The gas collection system must be in operation for 15 years until it reaches a waste generation rate, methane generation rate of 732 tons. So Brown Station landfill is within that threshold again. So the county's landfill, Brown Station Road, and just the Brown Station Road employs an active gas collection system. The collected gas is routed to a flare currently, and typically, if not a flare, we had a system whereby we pipe the collected gas to the correctional facility for use for heating of water. Currently, the gas pipeline is not in commission, is out of commission. So the gas is not currently being piped to the correctional facility. We're mainly flaring the gas at Brown Station Road currently. This is a picture of our main flare that we're currently used to flare our methane at Brown Station Road. This is the main component of our GCC, our GCCS. Here we have a secondary flare, two secondary flares, and other components of the GCCS. So MDE has approved a compliance schedule for the Brown Station and Sandy Hill landfill to comply with applicable regulation on November 14th of last year. That is a GCC design plan to be submitted, the plan needs to be submitted to MDE June of this year. So we have submitted a plan, and we have approval to submit a design plan for our new GCC, our GCCS, by June of this year. So the control device testing requirements of this new rule, there are several requirements. One notable requirement of this new rule is that the new GCCS that is installed will be destructive of the methane by 90%. That's one of the main components of the new rule for a flaring standpoint. There are several components, several regulation points that I may not get into this evening. Another notable rule that came into place, which is significant to landfill, is that the surface emission monitoring pathway is now changed. Inspectors and individual testing the landfill will now have to reduce the pathway of the emission monitoring. So the walk-in pattern will increase from 100, well, it will increase from 100 feet apart to 25 feet, which will give a larger coverage of a surface monitoring. That's a second component of the rule that is significant to and very effective to reducing the methane emissions and testing. We have here a timeline that was approved by MDE for implementation of the of our GCCS, and notably by February 15th of 2027, we will have our system fully in place and operational. One point that I need to cover is that Brown Station Road has a main flare that's flaring the methane gas currently. However, we are going to eliminate our 2 backup flares. We're replacing those 2 backup flares with a newly constructed flare that will positively be destructing methane at the 90% level that is required by this new rule. So the current flare will serve as the backup flare, and the 2 backup flares that we have will be replaced by a new flare, which will become the new primary flare at Brown Station Road. And that will be in operation around the 15th of February in 2027. In conclusion, we're actively at Brown Station Sanitary Landfill, we're actively processing and complying with the rules, and we're putting all the components of the regulation into play. That's my presentation. I will go straight into your questions.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Jackson. We really appreciate that. Okay, so let's entertain questions and comments. Please raise your hand. Chuck, go ahead. Unmute, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Sorry.
Okay.
I submitted a question. Is there going to be any opportunity for the public to comment on the plan before it's finalized in June or before it's approved and implemented in June?
I don't think there's a comment period for this plan, Chuck. This is a straight permitting process via MDE, submittal of
And the
design.
permitting process doesn't include a public opportunity or an opportunity for the commission to comment?
Not that I know of. I doubt that's the case, but I could double check and get back to you, Chuck.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that, especially since you're going to continue the flaring. And part of the reason you're doing all this flaring is because the pipeline failed and you're not moving forward with the pipeline.
Mhm.
So, Chuck, as you know, we are meeting the compliant. We're in compliance with the current regulation.
I understand you're in compliance, but that's the whole nother issue. It's still, you're only burning off 90% of the methane. That means there's 10% going into the atmosphere.
Mr. Jackson,
Well-
is the rate of efficiency of the current burning, of the flaring of the methane, is that 90 or what? Do you know what the percent is currently?
So the new rules call for testing of existing flares and submitting a report to MDE for the efficiency. That has not, I'm almost sure that has not taken place. But the new rule calls for 99%.
99%?
Yes.
So the question I'm asking is, we know what the current efficiency is of the flare as it currently exists today?
No, I don't have that information. And I don't think that was required also on the current regulation or previous regulation, but I don't have that number.
Okay. I don't know. Kevin, is that number available? Does it exist?
I'm not sure, but we can check.
Okay. We'd appreciate that. Oh,
We can provide for you we did the methane generation report that was required by MDE. We can take a look at that to see if the efficiency rate was in it. We can certainly provide that to the council.
David, correct me if I'm wrong. Don't you have some information that contradicts the numbers generated by the county or by the state? That you got some different methane numbers than what they're generating?
Yes,
In terms of the state as determined, I don't know what number you're talking about, Chuck. So the state has determined a rate at the landfill?
David had reference to a study that was done by another organization, and the numbers differed
Well,
significantly.
and that could be expected.
Hello?
A difference could be expected. I don't know if the University of Maryland was involved in some form of testing, but the methodology and information can be varied.
Dave, do you want to?
Mr. Jackson, Mr. Jackson, I think there was it sounds like there was a arithmetic error of major proportions which got corrected, but it showed the landfill at Brown Station doing much better until they corrected that arithmetic error.
So, and this should probably go on till at least 8 o'clock. If you want to give me a buzz tomorrow, that would be better.
Oh, Chuck,
Put her on mute.
So, David, if I'm hearing you, the arrow when the arrow was
there's 4 or 5 parking spaces there. If you get there,
Kevin, is there any way you can mute him?
Yeah, can the host mute?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Chuck, you weren't muted, so we just heard your conversation.
I'm sorry.
So,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I have another question for Mr. Jackson. You're talking about being in compliance. However, like what Chuck said, flaring to me is kind of should be like a what you go to when you don't have another alternative. And I think the alternative here is to use the gas in a beneficial way, like it was 4 or 5 years ago. And why you haven't been able to get that pipeline rebuilt is I just find that it's kind of incredulous. I also say when you're flaring, maybe you're getting rid of most of the methane. However, now you've got a lot of BTUs going into the atmosphere. You also have CO2 going into the atmosphere. So I think we have to find a better solution, not something that just complies with an existing law.
Well, I'm almost sure the county is looking into a bit more efficient ways where there are a lot of renewable natural gas processes that would apply here, and we're looking into different ways in how to use this methane that would be beneficial to the atmosphere. I guess cleaner ways of processing the methane.
We've been told this commission has been told for months, maybe even longer, that they
Years.
were looking for years to come up with an alternative if you can't do the gas line. We don't understand why you can't get that gas line rebuilt. It takes 4 or 5 years. It seems like we've got a real problem here, and we want to do the right thing here for the county, but we also want to do the right thing for our environment. And I think flaring is a bad thing. It also costs us money. I think it's over $1 million a year that this gas was being used at a correction facility. That's $1 million or more a year that now the county has to spend to find an alternative for its heating and hot water. So I think this is totally unacceptable.
I know this may not be the best answer, but we're closer to finding better ways of using this gas than you have told in the past.
No offense, but we've been told that for years too. It starts to run hollow.
Kevin, can you give us any kind of update on the RFI and what is the process that's happening for the beneficial gas search?
So the county has issued a solicitation last year, requesting for information from potential vendors on the most beneficial use of the landfill gas. And so we received 11 responses. And so the next step is to develop the RFP, which is projected to be posted early summer this year. We had a meeting with the MES last week to discuss the RFP, and we're going ahead with the RFP, which would formalize the proposal that we will get from the vendors.
Yeah.
So that's the latest on the landfill gas as far as the RFI is concerned.
And if I may add, Barbara, we've been the directives been given to the consultant to move forward with that RFP. So that's where my point is. We're closer than any point that you have probably been told.
So Kevin, is there actually a date? You said early summer. I mean, is there, a
The
ballpark?
projection is early summer, yes. For the
So
posting
early
of
summer being June, maybe?
yes. And
Are all of those proposals going to be in the hands of private users, not the county using it for the land or using it for the correction facility? Is the correction facility out and the pipeline's out and now we're looking at just private vendors?
Chuck, I'm almost sure that it's a multifaceted approach. I know the task for the rebuilding of the gas pipeline is not off the table.
Yeah, my understanding is what I've been told exactly is what Mr. Jackson's saying is that the county is still looking at, and this is Office of Central Services, of whether to move forward on the pipeline, but it has been months and months and months that we've been waiting to hear, almost a year since we asked, actually. It's been a long time, but at the same time, on another track is the issue with trying to find a private vendor who would deal with some innovative way to address using the landfill gas. And what I've understood is that the most likely scenario is that the gas would be processed and sent back to Washington Gas for sale. They would sell it back to the gas company.
And notably, this process, this use of this gas is got to go through a solicitation process. Is not can't be a sole source activity
Contract.
So and a process of that nature, it's time. It takes time. So and
Barbara or somebody, Chuck.
If that were the case, what kind of infrastructure would be required? Would that require another pipeline going someplace else?
I doubt that's the case, Chuck. My estimation would be a plant or something of that nature, somewhere closer to the landfill, but certainly.
So there'd be a plant built at Branch Station Road or near Branch Station Road. So once again, my neighborhood would be impacted by the adverse effect of the gas and the processing of the gas at the landfill.
Yeah, but it could be extracted and processed elsewhere. But I
hear
can't.
what you're saying.
What I'm saying, it's we don't know at this point. The solicitation is out there. We have no clue at this point what this would look like. But you will need a way to process the methane for sure.
So, okay, I have some questions. Bill, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so you've got an RFP that's coming out on the street. It's going to have to be, there's going to be time for the responses, then there's going to be an evaluation, then they're actually going to have to do construction and all that. How much longer is the gas going to be flared as far as years, decades, what?
And Bill, decades, it doesn't take decades to from this point on.
It has so far. But anyway, So what's the estimated point in time at which they're going to be able to stop flaring and turn this new system on, whatever the new system is?
That's the information that I don't have right now. I have no idea what it is. You know, no estimation of the process, what system they're going to be using. All that ties into a time frame.
And no one's had any estimations on what that time framework is?
No, the RFP process is still going on, so that is tied up in the RFP. So no time frame.
And this is, I assume this is Central Services issuing this RFP, not the Department of Environment. Is that correct?
I think the department will be in control of this process.
From this point on?
No, so Bill, the Office of Central Services is managing the contracting and construction related, design related issues for the pipeline, the old pipeline. And
Okay.
the new stuff is going to be, I think, under DOE.
Totally.
Is that correct, Mr.
Yes,
Jackson?
that is very correct. DOE is
Okay.
managing and possibly with in conjunction or under you know, with our consultant MES.
Right.
Okay.
So
So
spearheaded the process, but DOE will be the main county agency at this point.
So DOE will be the person making the decision as to who is winning the RFP
Probably in consultation with MES.
with the consultants. Yeah, right, all right. But MES works for DOE, so in effect, DOE, you know, is the one in charge of it. Central Services is totally out of the picture then.
I think that's accurate, Bill.
Okay, all right, just thank you.
Okay, Dave?
Just so you know, the Office of Citizen Services had the staff and manpower when the pipe went out of commission, and for that turnaround, that's why the Office of Central Services is involved. The project is funded by the division.
Okay. Oh, so was Central Services the ones managing the pipeline when it broke?
That
As
is
opposed
correct.
to Dewey?
That is
Oh,
correct.
Oh, okay, so we can blame them. Okay, great. They don't care. Anyway, thank you.
Okay, Dave?
This is a question for Kevin. Kevin, in your report or that summary you sent us the last day or two, there's a question or a mention that MES was redacting some of the maybe the
Of the RFI.
the RFI. Yeah, I'm wondering, could you explain that a little bit?
So we made a request for MES to provide us the submitted RFIs, and they told us that they need to redact some information from the proposals, and we got the redacted version just early this week, and then we submitted the document to the Office of Law for vetting, whether it can be published on the DOA website or only to the SWAC, because you made a request, right? Andrea wants the RFIs to be published on the DOA website. And so it's now with the Office of Law doing the screening, whether it can be published on the DOA website or submitted to your group.
But Kevin, don't we have a copy of that RFI that you all had sent us?
No, no, I haven't sent that document to you, Nancy.
Well, then I have to look and see what.
MES has the RFIs, handles the RFIs, and it's now with Office of Law. Just submitted this morning.
Barbara, do you remember there was I thought there was an RFI document that we had received. You had done, remember?
The information, yes. I'm pretty sure. Maybe
Yeah,
it was
so-
just a rough draft or something.
Kevin, we got something.
We got
I might-
something, but I don't remember
I'd have to look it up, but
precisely what it was.
I had a lot of
Maybe
it,
it's,
had a lot of extensive information, in fact, about these issues.
Yeah, you may have had the request for information document,
Yes.
but you don't have the submittals.
Oh, so you're talking about what was submitted?
Yes.
correct, yes.
Okay, that wasn't clear. Okay, so yes,
The
we've seen
responses.
the responses, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, so, all right, so then they're in a process of redacting. I don't know why, but they're redacting certain information. Maybe it's proprietary, I don't know.
Company proprietary. usually.
And then we'll be, and hopefully then at some point we'll be able to see that, is that correct?
Yes, yes.
And is there, again, a
Yes.
time frame on that?
Office of Laws not given any time frame yet. But I will keep on following up, so
Okay,
you can have access to the document.
okay, all right, great, thank you. Thanks for following up on that. Okay, other questions? Bill, go ahead.
How many responses were presented to the RFI? Just number, not who, just the number.
11
11.
responses.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay, hearing no other or seeing any other hands, I have a couple questions, Mr. Jackson. You talk about this gas control and collection system,
Yes,
but I presume we now have a gas control and collection system. Is that correct?
we do. We do have a gas control and collection system. So technically, we're in compliance. The Brown Station Center landfill was in the process of replacing the two backup land flares, and we're constructing a new flare that will be primary flare, with the hope, not the hope, this will be new technology that will destroy, comply with the rule, destruction of 99% of the methane.
Okay, so what you're saying is the current gas control and collection system that currently exists at Brown Station Road will meet the requirements except for the flaring device, but the rest of the system will meet the requirements of the new regulations?
So not exactly. What I'm saying is we had intended and constructing a new flare. And that was before the rules came into place. And we are moving forward in line with this rule to construct a new flare, which will be the primary flare.
Right, but the rest of the system, the gas collection system, not the flaring part,
Yeah,
the rest of the system is adequate to meet the requirements.
yes, that is correct.
Okay.
What is required in the rule is leak testing. There are many different components of the rule that requires leak testing and different things just to do with safeguarding the system from leaks, just a piping. So that, I guess, it's annual testing and monitoring that are in play with this new rule that probably weren't in place prior.
Okay, so in terms of the wells, how are they, is there a different monitoring process for those wells with the new regulations and what's currently being done?
Not the wells, but the surface, the surface emission monitoring for sure. The way they walk pattern will be reduce or increase, I should say, from 25 feet apart to 100 feet, from 100 feet apart
To
to
20.
25.
So
Yes.
can you explain what that is? Because I don't really understand what that is.
That is the device that they use to essentially surf the surface of the landfill. There's a grid pattern that the device would walk along to test for emissions. And that has to be closer than it had before.
Okay, I'm still not clear. So
there's a device that is used to sniff the surface of the landfill for emissions.
okay. And
But
so,
it's an individual that walks with that device.
mhm. Okay. And so what, I don't understand, if they're walking, what is that 100 feet versus 25 feet mean?
Well, it means a closer net. So you drag in more, you catch in more, or a potential of catching
More leaks?
more leaks. Yeah.
Okay, and so how are those leaks typically reported? Is there a report that happens?
Well, let's say it's not leaks, but emissions.
Okay,
So
emissions.
you are testing for the emissions, a number. As you go along, the device would record a number.
And what's the frequency of that testing?
That I'm almost sure that's quarterly or
Hmm.
semi-annually.
So has the county ever considered, Dave and I sat through a webinar recently about kind of innovative approaches to methane management. You may have sat through it as well, where they use an automated systems to do some of this monitoring.
Yeah, there's many methods out there. We have not employed any of those as yet.
Do you know if the county, and this may be a question for Kevin or maybe other management, but whether the county has considered any of those methods? You know, if that's been a consideration in the planning for the management of the landfill?
I can say that we have looked. We are all aware of the different methods out there, and in conjunction with our consultants, we would employ the method that's best suited for the Brown Station landfill.
Yeah, well, that's fine. But there's moving into the future and there's the new landfill that's being built. Is there going to be a change in the monitoring approach? And I presume in terms of Area C?
Nancy, I'm quite sure as we go along in the future, if there's a technique that would be more efficient, we will employ those techniques. But nothing's been introduced that right now that I know of that we are considering.
Okay, so I'm asking you just about the future and moving forward, and I don't
Sure.
recall seeing anything specific in the plan, so.
Yeah, there's nothing that I've seen, but the future definitely. You know, our consultants that monitor the well field, they have approached us with not approach us, but they are aware that there should be efficiency. I've not heard anything of them moving towards that direction as yet.
Okay, and the consultants you're talking about, is that MES?
No.
Or the engineering firm?
The engineering firm.
Okay,
What we employ, Nancy, it would be the firm that would execute the monitoring and the recommendation. So the county.
so does the county do the actual monitoring or do the consultants do the monitoring?
The consultants do the monitoring.
Okay, I didn't know that, okay.
Nancy,
Mr. Jackson,
go ahead.
Yeah. Who's Kevin? Somebody's speaking, I can't.
Yeah. Nancy, just to add, we're slowly moving into automation. For example, our gore cover technology at the compost facility, it
Mhm.
can be remotely monitored in terms of temperature. We also have our optical sorter at the MRF. where, you know, the numbers are monitored remotely. So I think we're heading into that direction. And Eric is right to say that, you know, it really depends on the situation, the need at the landfill. Um, but eventually, I think the future is automation for the landfill.
The future, excuse me, what is?
I mean, the future for the landfill is, you know, automation in terms of monitoring.
Yeah, I
Um,
would think so.
but it would depend on the recommendations of our, you know, consultants.
Mr. Jackson, I was a little bit fuzzy when you mentioned this, but how often is it quarterly or biannually that there's the monitoring via your consultant group?
I'm almost sure it's quarterly, David. Have it somewhere here. So it's quarterly that they monitor quarterly, but report semi-annually.
Okay.
So I can confirm that also.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Jackson. We really appreciate, and it would be great to have you back as I guess this month, Area C construction starts, is that correct?
That is correct. Mobilization is taking place next week. So the construction activities are about to take place at the landfill.
Okay, well, we would, I think, maybe have you back periodically to update us on both what's happening with the you know, these required improvements to the gas control and collection system, as well as what's happening with Area C. So thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Okay, thanks for having me.
Okay, so we're gonna just move the agenda around a tiny bit, talk about just briefly give you all an update, although I've sent everything out by email. 10-year solid waste plan, as you know, we submitted a long document with a lot of comments. And again, thanks to Barbara and Dave for helping, and Bill with that document. The committee, TI, Transportation, Infrastructure, Energy Committee, TIEE, sent some questions and comments back to the Resource Recovery Division, and they responded. I sent that back out to make changes to the 10-year solid waste plan, and that was approved. Those were approved. I will say that I think that the SWAC is moving in a direction of creating a permanent looking at the 10-year solid waste plan and probably other plans, and are going to incorporate that into the Greenhouse Gas Committee. So if anybody's interested in an ongoing way, and Louisa, I would really encourage you to participate in that committee. We're going to continue to look at some of the issues of the 10-year plan so that we can continue to provide feedback and really understand what's in the works for the future. So that's where we're heading with that. And with Kenny, that's it. That's all we're going to cover, and whatever Kevin may have to report on that.
Actually, I just wanted to report that the last part of the process for the approved plan to be transmitted to MDE is going to happen this Friday. I put
Okay.
a little description in the chat too, so you can look at that. But the rest of MDE's process, they get 60 days to formally approve the county's plan. As they include DNR, Department of Planning, and what's the other one? It is Department of Agriculture also get to weigh in on it. It's a pro forma thing, and they have 60 days to do it. Doesn't mean they have to take that long. And they also have an opportunity to extend that review period for 45 days if they needed to. Now that's just the language that's in the state law. So, but they could go faster than that if they if
If they
possible.
make comments, can they send it back for revisions or suggested changes?
Can they send it back?
For suggested changes? If they see something in there that they
Yeah.
think should be modified, can they make
Yes. Absolutely. They're the approving agency. So yes, they can decide something needs to be added or changed or whatever and send it back if that's what they choose to do. Yes, that's possible. Mhm.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much for completing that circle there.
No problem. Guys, I gotta go. So
Have a good trip.
thank you.
Thanks a lot, Kenny.
All righty. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, back to the agenda. Kevin, I think you're up. Report on Resource Recovery Division.
Okay, good afternoon. So some RRD updates. Give me one second. So as I mentioned before, on the Better Bug Bill, concerns can be coursed through the PGC 311, and the complaints are being addressed and responded to by our recycling inspectors. And we have noticed a drop of complaints since the initial plastic bag ban went into effect. So some of the complaints relate to the price of the bag, and some businesses still use single-use plastic bags. So those are the key complaints that we receive via PGC 311. For the compost rollout, RRD plans to conduct outreach events for county and council members' special events. And I mentioned before, Dave, that we have requests from each HOAs to do the outreach. So it's on a request basis. We don't have a list because we just respond to requests by homeowners associations. But we check our PGC compost email back for inquiries, and this is being done by our recycling section. This is in terms of tracking complaints and issues.
So what is it? Has there been much traffic in terms of calls and complaints?
Initially, yes. And over time, there was a decrease in terms of the number of calls and complaints, Nancy. And they are slowly being addressed by our recycling inspectors.
Okay.
10-year plan, Kenny reported that it will be transmitted to MD on April 19. So we're working on finalizing the plan. And then we hope to receive the letter from the council stating that the plan has been adopted. So it will go along with the final plan. For the waste sort at the OCF, we provided you with the raw data for the waste sort we did in March 2024. Just to note that the OCF has conducted 2 waste sorts in 2023, one in August and one in November, and we have provided you copies of the results.
So Kevin, let me ask you. So my understanding is that in 2013, the organics facility started accepting food waste.
Mm-hmm.
So but it was 10 years then before the county did any kind of waste sort of the product in that facility. Is that correct?
Yes. I'm checking if we did waste sort prior to 2023. And I will get back to you on that, Nancy.
Okay.
But to my knowledge, in 2023, we had 2 waste sorts. And they were conducted when, we had the rollout, the residential rollout for the curbside composting program.
Yeah, so there's been a total of 3, as far
Correct,
as we
yes.
know. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I appreciate
And
if there is, it would be interesting to see that.
mhm. So so for example, in August 2023, some, key results. So based on the report, there was an increase in food waste tonnage, and also an increase in food contamination. In the second waste sort in November, there was an increase in food waste and less less contamination for the food waste that were received at the OCF. So the results varied, and we will see the final waste sort result that will be submitted to us by MES, and we will forward it to you once they're done.
So
Editing
then,
the latest report.
well, the latest report strikes me as kind of odd because one of the trucks had a rate of food waste of 17.5% almost, which just seems extraordinarily high.
Mhm.
It's almost hard to imagine that that's even accurate. It seemed really odd.
They, I believe, get also trucks from food stores, so it might have, or can include those in trucks, so it might have been such an aberrant truck.
I thought it was just residential. Kevin?
I think the 2 that we sorted, I think were both residential, I believe.
And they were both low food.
Right, they were low food. It wasn't a lot of food. That's what seems odd. That number seems really strange, given what we saw. One was more than 5%, which even that seems high, given what we know the numbers have been of about 2%, and that's including the commercial food waste. So how could it go from really probably 1% to 5%, and then another truck of 17%? Seems really strange.
Anyway, you'll have the opportunity to comment or edit the report that MES is preparing based on what you observed at the OCF.
Say that again, Kevin.
You will have the opportunity to edit or comment on the report that MES
Okay.
has drafted once
Okay.
you get hold of that report. Yes.
Okay, so when we get that report, I think we will, find a way to submit some questions.
Yes. Yes.
It just, I mean, genuine question of how it could go from about 1% to 17%. It just, and we didn't observe a lot of food waste in the material we were sorting. So, I mean, it might be helpful to talk to Steve Birchfield.
Yes. You'll have the
So-
opportunity to clarify the results.
Okay, all right, well, we'll do that when, do you have any idea the time frame on that? Couple weeks?
Probably next week. I can, because I followed up with Steven again this week.
Okay,
So I will reach out to him again to provide us the report.
okay, all right, great, thank you, Kevin. Bill?
So the 2 sorts that were done in 2023, those were both during the time at which they were still rolling out more of the green totes, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, and now the last sort that we had done was done after they had completed the dispersal of all those totes across the county that they were giving out, correct?
So the rollout was concluded March 31st.
Okay, so they still had 2 more weeks of stuff to distribute as far as the totes go. Okay, all right, just wanted to verify.
Okay. LFG beneficial use. So I reported earlier that Director Crooms has notified MES to proceed with the development and posting of RFP by early summer. And I think the expectation is that the contract will be hopefully will be signed before end of the calendar year. On the bicycle reuse program, Nancy, I understand that Jefferson has sent a copy of the summary of the survey results.
Yep, just got
And
it. Mhm.
And I think we will have to discuss the next steps before going back to the respondents who provided the results, the answers, right?
Yeah, I think the plan is for the reuse committee to meet with the staff that we're working with and figure out precisely how we want to use a meeting with the potential partners to move things
Mhm.
forward. That's
Okay.
correct,
Mhm.
yes. Mhm.
Okay. Compost outreach. So we will, RRD will work with the outreach committee to discuss potential collaboration on developing strategies and approaches on increasing residential participation. So we will, so our basis for the collaboration is the OCF waste sort result that we will share with you. And we also hope that the results from the capstone survey will come into play when we have the discussion on increasing residential participation. So Dave, based on your timeline, I think you will be doing the survey soon, right?
Survey, yes.
Okay. Mhm. And then we can proceed with our meeting to discuss our strategies.
Kevin, you
La-
mentioned that in your what you sent us. What meeting are you speaking of?
Sorry, Dave, could you repeat your question?
Yeah, you mentioned that in your this 9-point update that we got a day or so ago, and you mentioned the meeting. Which meeting are you speaking of?
Meeting between RRD and the outreach committee on developing the strategies for increasing residential participation.
Oh,
In the
That's what
compost program.
the compost program. Yes, that's what
okay.
I meant.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so any further comments or questions on Resource Recovery Division?
Nancy,
report?
can I ask a question about, the county
Sure.
has a mulch giveaway program coming up. Can you share information, Kevin?
Yes, it's on April, I believe it's on April 22nd. It coincides with Earth Day. And so it's for the residents. You will be asked to present your ID. And I think we will also be distributing some outreach materials during the event. So we encourage you and your community members to avail of this free service. Free
And
mulch that we will be
where do people pick up the mulch?
at our compost facility.
Okay.
Is there a limit on that, Kevin? Because I know there are people that use pickup trucks and there are other people who use trash cans.
As long as you don't use commercial vehicles, I think you can, but the line is usually long. So I think you have the opportunity to go back, but it
I think
depends.
from past years, if I remember correctly, the maximum that they would give you would be one scoop, one backhoe scoop.
Mhm. I think so. Yes.
Was this for personal use or only for community areas?
It's personal or
It's
community.
personal.
If
Yeah.
you have a community association that picks it up and just places it, the community can do it, but it's also personal. You can pick it up for your resident, for your home. I've done it 3 times.
Okay, so Kevin, is there anything special happening for Earth Day other than the mulch giveaway?
I think that's the main event,
There's
Nancy.
a county-wide cleanup that day as well for those communities that signed up.
Green up.
Yes, it usually occurs on Earth Day as well. I will get more information about it and I will share it with you.
So Kevin, would it be possible when you all do the updates would be to include upcoming events that you guys are doing?
Sure, okay,
That
I
would be
will.
that would be helpful. Thanks.
Okay. Mhm.
Bill, do you have another?
Yeah, well, I have a question regarding the compost outreach. Now is that going to be directed pretty much on residential people? Or are they also trying to encourage more commercial contributions to be made to the compost?
So yeah, we are encouraging, it's twofold, Bill. We are encouraging businesses to deliver their waste at our facility and also the residential communities. Yep.
Okay.
That's a good question, Bill.
So that as it is now, no commercial deposits are being made at Brown Station Road of food waste or that. Is that correct or incorrect?
We discourage food waste to be delivered at our landfill. Um, we inform we inform our businesses and residents to divert their food waste to our compost facility.
Not only is the tipping fee lower, but you don't want it there
Yes.
anyway. Okay.
Right,
All right.
yes.
I was just wondering if the outreach was going to be solely directed towards residential or, or those people that are on county collection for
Mhm.
recycling and yard waste and that, or whether it was going to be extended to those people who may have, they do food processing or whatever and would have a larger volume of pure food waste as opposed to that which is mixed in with yard waste from residential people.
I think we can also touch on the businesses to encourage them to bring food waste to our facility.
Okay.
Kevin, has there been any specifically targeted outreach or marketing to the commercial food vendors?
Um, I will check with that, Nancy, but I know there's a plan, but I'm just not sure yet. I'm not sure about the specifics of it, but I can
Okay.
check
Okay,
just to be sure. Yeah.
okay. Okay, so let's seeing no other questions, we'll go now to committee reports. We've covered a lot of the same materials, so we won't linger, but there's still some other things that are important. So Dave, you're up on the Greenhouse Gas Committee.
Okay, thank you. I'll try to be brief. Couple things. First, the Greenhouse Gas Committee, I plan to have another next meeting a week or two from now, and I'll send out an invite to everybody on the committee.
Dave, maybe just send it also to everybody, just in case there's anyone else who wants to join.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, will do. Regarding the survey, which I think Kevin mentioned briefly, we're working with a group of Maryland students right now. Nancy and I have spent probably on and off about 2 weeks getting the survey together. We have it now done. Kevin was good enough to make copies, and I went out to the landfill today and picked them up. We have about 225. That's about the number of houses in town. It's the survey is about 2-pager, and it's done. We have both English and Spanish versions. A few Spanish versions. Most of the people in that community we're going to, it's called College Heights Estate, which is very close to the university and almost next door to where I live. And we hope to get the surveys out and back hopefully fairly quickly, because the students, their semester ends in a couple of weeks. And what they're going to do is they're going to look at and evaluate the data that they get from those surveys. Some of the students plan actually to go up to the door and knock and try to do the survey right there in place. But most of the surveys will just go out to the people, hard copy. Someone and the in that community, they have it's not a incorporated area. It's just part of a larger Hyattsville area, and they have a small, what they call the board, And their board director is going to pass out through emails the survey again. So we hope to, in a couple different ways, we'll get the survey out and we'll hopefully get a good response. And what we're trying to do is find out what people know about composting, what they know about the rollout, are they now participating, and then some of the other additional questions to try to understand just how effective the program has been or what we can do to make it a little better. And certainly once we get the data back, we'll share that with everybody. And hopefully that will give us some ideas as to how effective right now the composting program at least is in one small community of the county. The second thing I want to mention is, again, the sort, which we did. There were, I think, 4 of us from the commission, and it was an interesting experience. And I think it would be something that the other commissioners might want to participate in the future. I'm going to ask if we can do a small sort sometime in the spring and then also maybe in the fall for the collection that goes on in my town, University Park. We have about 400 houses that are collected weekly, and we have been passing out bio bags to everybody, which our council wants to discontinue as of July 1st, the end of our fiscal year. And I think what'll happen is we'll start seeing plastic. And I think it might be a good information if we can show before and after how effective use of bio bags is in reducing plastic pollution. The last thing I want to mention is, excuse me here. I've talked to some of the people at the University of Maryland, including a neighbor of mine, Russ Dickerson, about possibly doing a methane measurement at the OCF. And I suspect that we'll probably find very low methane numbers there. But I think it would be really good to understand and maybe have data. And if we indeed find that there's very little methane being emitted, that is a good story that we should be selling to the county about why composting is really so much better than just sending to the landfill where we do have methane. So I think that's all I have to report, and I can answer any questions that anybody has.
So Kevin, I think there's 2 questions here that David's raised. One is, what would need to happen in order to get an okay for Russ to bring his equipment onto the OCF site to do some measurements? They're interested in doing it, I understand, but I'm sure we need to have an authorization.
I would suggest to write a letter to Marlin.
Okay.
Informing about the plan and the purpose of the measurement.
Okay.
So that's the first step. Yeah. Send a letter to Marlin.
Okay. So Dave, we had discussed doing that. So
okay.
We can get on that. Okay. And the other question that David's raised is about doing an additional waste sort of at the OCF of material coming from University Park. I think he suggested that people from there would help do the sort like we did, but it still requires some staff engagement because there's a back end loader that's used. I mean, and then they also have to measure everything. So is that something that we can request, or how would that work?
Yeah, similar protocol as before when you did the March waste sort. Just inform Marlin that you're planning to do waste sort again in spring and fall.
Okay,
So
this would be targeted. This would be targeted to really be able to identify the truck that has picked up the compost and waste and yard materials from the municipality, from the town of University Park. It wouldn't be from the county, it would be from the town.
Okay, just indicate the target area.
Okay.
And then, yeah, Marlin will act on your request.
Okay, so Dave, I think another thing is just also draft another correspondence to make a request and explain, what we're after.
Okay.
Okay, and then the other thing is we still, and I don't know if you have any further update on this, Kevin, but Dr. Dickerson, we're waiting to hear about when they might start the measurements at Brown Station Road, but we have not heard anything other than the usual refrain that the staff person at NIST has some issues.
So I haven't heard from Professor Dickerson about the next step, because the last thing I heard from him was the agreement was still with NIST, and so he was proposing that the research be conducted between DOE and UMD. That's his proposal.
Oh, so that's changed.
Yes, but after that I haven't heard from him.
Okay, so
about
would
it.
that mean then drawing up a different contract
I think removing
or just
The-
removing
the-
NIST?
other parties, yes, removing the other parties from the contract.
Okay, so is the ball in his court then at this point?
Yes. Mhm.
And that's
Okay.
going to now let it move forward.
Barbara, say again?
This should now let it move forward, because this is unfortunately languished much too long.
Yes.
So Professor Dickinson has to propose to the county that, the other involved parties will not be participating, and then we can modify the contract.
So Kevin,
Based on his-
I presume he knows this, right?
Yes, because he was the one who told me to
Okay.
inform us about the proposal.
Okay, all right, so, okay. So that explains, Barbara, where it is. Okay, all right, okay, I think those are the follow-up items. Okay, Dave, so you're gonna let everybody know when the next meeting is. My understanding that be somewhat focus on, still some follow-up on the 10-year solid waste plan, but there's a number of other items.
Yeah, and the last thing I want to say is because we have a relatively short time period, we may be able to give you data on the survey that the University of Maryland students are doing
Fairly quickly.
fairly quickly. We might have something even by the next meeting.
Yeah, they should be done by then.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's great. That's been a great project. Okay, Dave, thanks a lot. Thanks for all you're doing. Okay, Nyla. Looks like Nyla's on the call. Or maybe I don't know why her name is up there. I don't know. Okay, well, anyway, I'm gonna follow up and see what the status of her participation is with what Barbara mentioned, potential travel or what have you. The one thing I know that I was instrumental in helping with was working with the durable medical equipment facility and working with them. They put together an ad, which basically an outreach piece that went to Council Member Owen's office to include in their materials, and the plan is to send that to all the other council members. So council members can regularly send out in their correspondence information to county residents about using the durable medical equipment facility, which provides medical equipment for free for our residents. So it seemed like a really good way to get the word out to county residents. So that's the outreach. The reuse, Kevin mentioned, our focus has been primarily on working on this bicycle reuse project. Edward, who we've been working with, has just been fabulous. He's done a really great job talking and collecting data from several different potential partners. And we're going to be evaluating the data and beginning to figure out what our next steps are. So that's underway. We'll probably be having another meeting in the next few weeks, hopefully with our own folks, and then we'll be setting up a partner meeting. The other thing is I am looking at some of the language in the plans about the reuse facility. And Kevin, thank you for clarifying. I am going to go back through stuff and try to figure out the language and all the different sections and try to understand a little bit better what is meant by these different plans. I think there's some confusion about the Brown Station Road facility or convenience facility and the reuse center. So I want to be able to clarify that.
Nancy, can you back up a minute to the bicycle reuse program?
Sure.
Has anybody ever attempted to make an outreach to the correction facility to see if they might partner and have some of the people who are housed at the correctional facility trained for bicycle rehab and reconstruction, rebuilding as a educational tool and a potential employment opportunity after they leave?
Yeah, that's Chuck, that's a really interesting idea. I will definitely put that in the hopper. We're not at the stage of figuring out that piece. All the three organizations that we got detailed responses from primarily use volunteers to do a lot of the fix work. We've been trying to connect, and I think Bill made some efforts to try to connect with Park and Planning. We still need to continue to do that. We haven't really successfully figured out who the best contact is there. But I think that would be great. Maybe we should connect with somebody at that facility on the early end of this project and see if there is an interest. Yeah, that's a great idea. So thanks for bringing that up. Bill, question?
Yes, this is not related to what you're talking about right this second,
Okay.
but on the, it relates back to the waste sorts. Now, when is the next time they're going to be doing a waste characteristics study at Brown Station Road? I guess that's a Kevin question.
That's a good question.
By law, it's every 3 years. So we had the waste sort last year. So it would be after 3 years, Bill.
Oh, okay,
So-
because I was looking
It's a-
back on ones that I have, and the last thing that I saw was dated 2022, which would have been
Yeah,
2 years ago. And
Mhm.
which means that we have one coming up, like next year. And I was wondering if it's
Yes.
too early to start possibly maybe making it so that the SWAT members that would be interested could participate in that characteristics study as we had with the one at OCF.
Yes, the schedule is fixed. It's every 3 years, Bill. And it coincides with the updating of the 10-year plan.
Hmm.
So it was
So-
23 and not 22?
I think that was
Well-
2022, Barbara.
The last report I'm looking at literally right now was done by MSW, and it looked like it was a 2022 study update.
Okay, so
approach.
then it wasn't last year. So then it's next year. Great.
20, yes.
Yeah, so it'd be in 25. And is there a time? Do you know what the time frame for that?
Um,
Kevin?
because it's a 4-season study, I would
Ah.
assume it starts
In January.
in January. Yes.
Okay, so this is probably timely then. So if it starts in January,
Well, okay, looking at the schedule that was done in 2021, they did one in November. Visual survey dates was November 18th and 19th and 21. Then the winter season one was done
Mhm.
February 16th and 17th of 22. The spring season was done June 13th and 14th of 22. And the summer session was done August 16th and 17th of 22. That was the schedule that was followed for the last one that I have any records of being done. And that was the report that was presented by MSW Consultants.
so Kevin, do you think, will that start in November of 24 or will it start in the winter of 25?
Probably November. Yeah, to make the study consistent with the time frame.
Okay.
Yeah, I think November. I will check the schedule for the next waste characterization study.
So it's probably not too soon to start asking about it then, huh?
No, that was great. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
thanks.
will check the schedule. I will check.
That's great. I'm glad you thought of that, Bill. That's really helpful. Okay, the last item on the committee stuff is legislative agenda items, the legislative session is closed. What I know, is that we didn't get a whole lot. Martha will know probably a lot more about what steps maybe some of the bills have taken forward, but the paint care bill did go through. Far as I know, nothing else got passed, except I think that the turf tracking bill, I think got passed in some form. So I've actually emailed Martha to see if, I'm gonna see if she can next month give us a better detailed update of what's
Wha-
happening.
Yeah, it did, but what they did is they basically are deferring, um, uh, basically deferring on it for the most part. And they're gonna really wait until a study is done.
Right,
And the study unfortunately doesn't really address kind of what we're really interested is, like what happens to the stuff.
right.
So, for all intents and purposes, one could say not,
Not so much.
what got passed wasn't what we were looking for to happen, you know? It's
Okay.
basically another deferral.
Okay, thanks, Bill. I think that for next month, I'm gonna see if Martha's available, can give us a more detailed sort of reading of what progress she thinks was made, so we can really, in advance, begin to look at next year. Some of those bills are pretty important to our work, like the mattress bill and the bottle bill. We did send materials for the first time. We did send materials and support. We let them know where we stood on these items, which I think was really good, but I think it's a slow incremental process for some of these maneuvers in order to get us where we want to be. Okay, so I think that's it. Any announcements on anything? Anything going on that you know about especially for this month, for Earth Day? Other than what we discussed? No? Okay. Barbara?
I'll just mention that I think you saw, I mailed out to you guys the waste diversion that we did at the 21st delegation,
Mm-hmm.
a brunch. And I copied it to Andrea Crooms, and she very nicely wrote back, congratulations.
Yeah, great. That was great. Thanks
So I
for,
thought that was good. We might as well schmooze.
oh yeah, no, I think that's great. And I think it's good for the delegates. We need to be in good communication with them about really actively supporting the work, the things we want to see to make improvements in the county
Exactly.
on these issues. So thanks a lot for doing that. Much appreciated. All right, I will be following up with people to check on your committee engagement. We need to really get these committees more activated and moving on things and do the prep work and have enough time in advance for next year to really be prepared on some of these items. The budget, no one got back to me. I haven't heard anything. I have looked at it. At this point, I don't feel like there's any really significant commentary we can provide to the county on it. I am trying to clarify a few things with Kevin. And we'll do that, but this is where I'd like to sort of be better prepared for next year. So I think that's it. All right, everybody. Think we're good. We'll see everybody hopefully at some committee meetings and back in May. And again, Kevin, thanks for having Mr. Jackson, and thank you very much. Tell Marilyn we miss her. And we'll talk soon.
Okay,
Okay, everybody, have a good one.
thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
Bye now.
everybody. Bye-bye.